You're listening to the BeeBusinessBee Podcast. Buzzing for business.
Hello and welcome to the BeeBusinessBee Podcast. Hopefully you'll notice that this podcast has a new style, a new image, all thanks to Pete Morgan and his coaching tips that he's given me to ensure that you get the best podcast direct from the BeeBusinessBee Hive. You can find out more about Pete's business by checking out the link below. However, coming up in this show, we're going to learn why one bank could be disappearing from the high street. We're going to find out which music streaming service is still yet to make a profit after 10 years of trading. And we're also going to find out which British supermarket is in trouble when British may not quite mean British. And of course, we've got the return of my favourite, the BeeBusinessBee word of the week. And this week, it's an absolute cracker. So all that and much, much more coming up in this week's BeeBusinessBee Podcast.
The BeeBusinessBee Podcast. The best business podcast not on the radio.
The Co-op Bank has this week put itself up for sale. The Co-op actually owns only 20% of the Co-op Bank but has 4 million customers, so it's a fairly small bank when it's compared to some of the large players like our RBS and our Barclays. Now the Co-op Bank actually nearly collapsed in 2013 because when it purchased Britannia, then it found that actually they had a lot of bad debt, which was actually called toxic debt. Just like toxic waste, bad, you want to dump it. It was definitely no good for the bank. Now, rather than going to the government like the RBS went to, or some of the other banks like Lloyds, for example, and asked the government to bail them out, they actually went to something called a US hedge fund. Now, they want to make a return on their investment and make a profit. So as a result of that, they were looking to the bank to be successful. Of course, that's not been the case. It's been blamed on the fact that as a result of having falling interest rates, so people are going to be less likely to save money in the bank, and also the fewest number of customers have actually switched bank accounts this year. More people are staying loyal to the bank account. They actually suggest that you're more likely to stay loyal to your bank than to your partner. So as a result of that, you're more likely to have more marriages and more divorces in your life than you are to have bank accounts. I know that's certainly not the case for me at the moment. I am certainly what we would call a bank tart, and I would definitely swap my bank account if I can get a better offer, looking for the best interest rate possible. Of course, the Co-op Bank is a little bit different, or the way that it pitches itself is with its unique selling point. It says that it has good ethical values and it offers good customer service. Of course, if you look on their Twitter account and their feed, that can be very much debated. And I can certainly tell you stories about my issues with the Co-op Bank and obviously why I withdrew my money from their account. So I'm one of their lost customers. Of course, where does this put the bank? Well, potentially you could see the demise of the Co-op brand and banking from the high street. There is talk that TSB could be a potential buyer. Now they were split from Lloyds only early this year, last year, but there are big issues there. They've got big issues over the ICT systems and how it was integrated with the Lloyds system, but now they want to go on their own and they're trying to split it, and you know how these things are. They were built prehistoric time, and trying to split the things is like trying to split the atom. It just doesn't work. So of course it's costing lots of money there. But they have got 600 branches, and as a result of that, that could be something that appeals to a smaller bank like TSB to try and grow themselves and give them economies of scale. Of course, compared to the larger banks like your Barclays and your RBSs and your NatWest, they haven't got enough branches and they haven't got the economies of scale. And as a result of that, that means that the Co-op Bank is struggling to compete. Of course, what price do you want to pay? That's the most important part, and the Co-op Bank, strangely enough, has not placed a price on its organisation. So it's like going along to an auction with no reserve, or not knowing the reserve and placing a bid to decide how much you want to pay for it. I'll give them £1 for the bank. How much would you give them? Let me know in the comments down below. You've probably heard of that streaming music service called Spotify. But would you believe it's actually 10 years old this year? It was founded in 2007 and operates in over 60 countries with 1 million users. Of that 1 million users, 40 million of them are premium users who actually pay to subscribe to get no adverts on their Spotify account. I can't admit to being one of those because I quite enjoy being a freebie and still listen to my tunes on my iPad, even though on the shuffle mode on the phone I have to listen to what it gives me next, and you all know it's always random and upbeat. But of course, it still keeps me excited to learn about new music and new vibrant ways. Of course, this change in the way that we listen to music is having an impact on the music industry. It's now claimed that 51% of all listening takes place on digital platforms. Even radio stations start to adapt how they broadcast and what methods of media they use, such as social media like Facebook and Twitter. But would you believe, 10 years on, Spotify has not made a single pound in profit. It was founded by Rick Rubin, and he is still part of the organisation that actually operates Spotify. Of course, what Rick was planning on doing was trying to float the organisation on the stock market by selling shares. But there are some concerns that this will now be postponed, because there are fears that royalty agreements, now that's the amount of money that has to be paid to each of the record agencies and artists who put their songs on Spotify, have yet to be agreed for the future. Now, it's believed that at the moment 55% of all revenue actually goes back to the record companies and the artists, and as a result of that means that Spotify is finding it difficult to make a profit. They also believe that they're going to try and reduce the amount they pay in royalties so that they can make a greater profit margin and thus increase the amount of money they're going to make overall. How will the record companies feel about that? They're probably not going to be too happy. But has Spotify now become so big that it can start to dictate and demand what's going to happen in that market? So will artists soon be forced to comply with the terms that Spotify asks them to follow, rather than Spotify having to comply with the terms and jump to the demands of the record labels? This is going to be an interesting battle that we can probably expect to play out over the coming weeks, months, and maybe even the coming year. Of course, Spotify has got a greater problem which is about to hit, and that's an impending cash flow problem. Because Spotify actually did raise some capital, £1 billion worth of money, using expensive loans, and these now need to start to be repaid with greater rates of interest. Hence the reason that Spotify is believed to want to float on the stock market. Of course, if it does have a cash flow problem, is it going to run out of capital? Will it go bankrupt? These are all questions we have to think about. Or is Spotify simply too big to fail? They are questions that we all need to think about when we're next listening to our favourite track on Spotify. But of course, we know that you're listening to BeeBusinessBee because you are buzzing for business. It's been quite an eventful week for that British supermarket, which is quite posh, I think, personally. Waitrose, who've been making the headlines. And no, not because they're shutting many stores across the UK. It's actually all down to whether the word British actually means British when it comes to their lamb ready meals. Currently in Waitrose you could buy a lamb dish that actually contained New Zealand lamb but was actually part of their British range, and this, according to the National Farmers Union, was causing confusion amongst consumers who thought that actually they were getting a British product when they were actually getting New Zealand based lamb from all the other side of the world. Of course, the Advertising Standards Agency have been informed about this and have made no comment, but it's believed that because Waitrose have actually made the move to change the name, and they're now calling all their lamb dishes the classic range, removing the British range, but this will no longer be a problem. Of course, British farmers are not happy about the use of New Zealand lamb, especially for somebody like Waitrose, who tries to claim that ethics are behind everything they do, and fundamentally they want to be seen to do the right thing for the consumer and their suppliers. Waitrose, on the other hand, actually blames a lack of supply from the farmers and says that it has to look elsewhere to bring in their New Zealand lamb. Of course, it does raise questions such as, with the pound being fairly weak at the moment, and obviously the lamb being imported from New Zealand, is this actually increasing the costs of the meals? Does a lamb dish in Waitrose actually cost more than maybe a beef dish, for example? Have consumers had any impact and seen the impact on the price that they actually pay at the checkouts? Now, as I'm not a Waitrose customer, and I don't think I'm going to be likely to be a Waitrose customer or in their target market of customer, I can't comment. However, I would love to hear from you in the comments below if you are a Waitrose customer, and if you have tasted New Zealand lamb. Does it taste any different? Does it taste better than the British lamb? And has it had any impact on the price that you are paying when you are in your Waitrose store?
BeeBusinessBee Podcast Word of the Week.
This week's BeeBusinessBee Word of the Week is a real classic, as I promised you. It's the word capital. Now, no, I'm not talking about the word capital in the sense of a capital city, but I'm talking about the word capital when it comes down to money. So, for example, let's use the word capital in a sentence that you might use in the business context. So, I would like to invest £5,000 of capital into the company. What I'm talking about there is money being invested. So when we use the term capital, we're talking about the term money, and we're talking about the term in the form of being assets or wealth that's been invested within a business. So next time you're answering a question in business, as you want to use that term money, stop and think, no, I'm going to use a technical term. I'm going to use the term capital. Sounds much more professional, and it shows that you have actually been studying business. Join me next week for a new Word of the Week.
The BeeBusinessBee Big Quiz.
The BeeBusinessBee Big Quiz. Well, what's it all about? This is going to be a new feature that's going to take part in all of the shows. We're looking for teachers and students to take part in the BeeBusinessBee Big Quiz. All you simply need to do to take part is send me a tweet, it's at BeeBusinessBee, or drop me an email. You can find the contact details on the website at beebusinessbee.co.uk, and let me know that you want to take part in the BeeBusinessBee Big Quiz. How does it work? Well, quite simply, I have a series of questions. You'll have 60 seconds on the clock, and you need to answer as many questions correctly as you can within that 60 seconds. What will happen then is you can only move on to the next question when you get the previous one correct. The number of questions that you get correct in 60 seconds will put you on the leaderboard. And at the end of the year, the winner will get the chance to win a BeeBusinessBee mug that I'm looking at now, and I'll put you a nice picture on the website. Everybody wants one of these. Hashtag buzzing for business. So, what are you waiting for? Either nominate your teacher or suggest some students who would like to take part in the BeeBusinessBee Big Quiz. You need to be available on the telephone, ideally at the end of a school day, so around the times of 4 to 6 o'clock. And you need to be able to and willing to have your voice recorded and used in the BeeBusinessBee podcast as well. There's some of the terms and conditions that we need to do. Everything else is fairly straightforward. It's random. There's no cheating going to take place. And unlike some radio stations, I haven't got a website full of loads of T's and C's to give you. But you're going to take my word for it. The winner will get a BeeBusinessBee mug, which everybody wants to get their hands on. So what are you waiting for? Get to the website, send me an email or drop me a tweet, and make sure you're taking part and be the first contestant on the big BeeBusinessBee quiz.
The BeeBusinessBee Podcast. The best business podcast not on the radio.
Thanks for joining me on the BeeBusinessBee Podcast this week. Hopefully you found it informative and you picked up some new business knowledge that you didn't already know about. Don't forget, you can always get in touch with the show or get in touch with BeeBusinessBee generally by tweeting me. It's at BeeBusinessBee. You can like the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/BeeBusinessBee. You should subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click that button down below, that subscribe button. But you can check out the channel. It's youtube.com/BeeBusinessBee. And don't forget to check out my online hive where everything's happening and we're always buzzing for business. It's beebusinessbee.co.uk, and there you'll find a link that shows you how to contact me and ask me directly any questions you may have about business. I'd love to hear your thoughts and I'd love to get your views, so don't forget to post them down below in this comment section, or just share with me and let me know what your thoughts are on anything that we covered in the show. And until next time, keep buzzing!
You're listening to the BeeBusinessBee Podcast. Buzzing for business!
Ensure that you're buzzing for business. Follow BeeBusinessBee on Twitter. It's at BeeBusinessBee. Like the Facebook page, facebook.com/BeeBusinessBee. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/BeeBusinessBee. And finally, don't forget to check out our hive of online resources at beebusinessbee.co.uk. Thanks for checking out the BeeBusinessBee YouTube channel. Don't forget to click the subscribe button down below to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. It's at BeeBusinessBee. Also, give the Facebook page a like. It's facebook.com/BeeBusinessBee. And lastly, don't forget to check out the online hive of activities found on beebusinessbee.co.uk, full of quizzes, activities and resources. And remember, until next time, keep buzzing.